Spending time outside has always been a part of my life. It's never really been something I've had to think about. It's just where I naturally go when I need grounding. And with Earth Day and Arbor Day just passing, celebrating my two favorite things, earth and trees, I find myself thinking a little more on my time spent outdoors and about what it really means to me. Nature has this quiet way of helping me slow down and take it all in on a deeper level. When I'm out there with her, taking in all the beauty around me, I find myself standing a little longer, just embracing being there, feeling the ground beneath my feet a little bit more, breathing in the air instead of just simply moving through it. And it's in those moments that something within me shifts. And maybe you felt that too. Because even when something has always been a part of your life, there are moments where you experience it in a much deeper way, where it shifts from something familiar into something you actually feel connected to. And right now, that awareness feels a little stronger for me and a little more present. And it's been inviting me to look at something I thought I already understood in a completely different way. Before we move any further, let's take a moment to slow down together. Wherever you are, get comfortable, soften your shoulders, and take a breath with me. Take a slow breath in. And gently let it out. Wherever you are, allow yourself to arrive and walk gently into this space with me. Welcome to Find Your Way to Vibe. Hi, beautiful souls. I'm Amber, and I'm really grateful you're here with me today. This one feels a little more grounded and a little more rooted in something that's been a steady part of my life. It's really just a reflection on the earth and nature and what happens when you slow down enough to feel your connection to it. Because even though it's something I've always been close to, lately I've been noticing it in a way that's been staying with me a little differently. And through those moments that I allow to linger a little longer, and the time spent outside that feels a little more present, I found myself sitting with them more and not really trying to define them, just letting them be what they are. And somehow through that, this conversation started to take shape in my mind. And I'm just going to let it naturally unfold here. So today we're just stepping into that together. Before we move deeper into today's reflection, I want to step onto the trail of gratitude. Because even when it feels like we're walking our own path, we're always being supported in ways we don't fully see. And today, that gratitude feels rooted in something meaningful for me, and that's in the earth itself. I've come to realize just how much of my own healing and my own growth has been shaped by the time I've spent in nature. I hold a very deep gratitude for Mother Earth, for the way she has held space for me over the years, and the way that she has helped me move through my fears and dig a little deeper within myself to slowly begin to heal and become. She's shown me what it means to flow with life and not to force it or rush it in the ways that I used to. She showed me instead how to move in a way that feels more natural and more aligned for me. And in her presence, I've always felt this steadiness, a rhythm that is almost like a breath. And when I allow myself to slow down enough to actually feel all of that, that's where I find my peace. And that feeling, that presence of gratitude is something that I want to carry with us throughout this entire episode, because I feel that it is something that quietly moves with us through each reflection, each moment, and each realization. So today, instead of looking outward, I invite you to take a moment to feel into that connection, to think about a time or a place where you felt supported, grounded, or held in a way that stayed with you. Maybe it was outside, or maybe it was a quiet moment with yourself, or maybe it was something you didn't fully understand at the time, but you felt it. And if that moment comes to mind, just simply sit with it for a minute. Because gratitude doesn't always have to be spoken. Sometimes it's simply felt. And in feeling it, we begin to open ourselves to something even deeper. As I sit with that gratitude, it starts to take me just a little bit deeper into how I feel about the earth and what it does and its importance in life, and the way that it holds everything without asking for anything in return. Because when I think about it, the earth carries a lot. It holds more than we could probably ever stop to think about, especially in a world we're living in today that feels even more true. There's no denying how much has changed and how much we've created. And in so many ways, the earth has had to move with all of that and change with all of that. And sometimes I find myself wondering about that, how it continues to hold everything and continues to keep providing and keep showing up the way that it does for us. I don't know that there's a clear answer, but it's something I keep coming back to, because the more I pay attention when I'm out there experiencing nature, the more I start to notice how nature just simply moves through things. It doesn't seem to fight change in the way we often do. It just moves through it. There's almost this quiet acceptance in that, a kind of trust in the process, if you will, that doesn't need to really be explained. I mean, things shift, they fall away, and then they begin again. And none of that feels rushed. And none of it feels really stuck either. And the more I sit with that, the more I start to notice how different that feels from the way we often move through life. There's a lot of holding on, trying to figure everything out right now. And if you don't figure it out, it's chaos. And there's trying to make sense of things before we're really ready to let them all unfold. And it creates a lot of unrest within us, I feel. And yet, nature just continues. It continues to do its thing, no matter what. It doesn't get uneasy about it. It just kind of flows with whatever comes its way. And I think in my own way, I've learned from that in a big way. I had this moment a while back that really stayed with me. I was hiking my early morning hike up to the waterfall that was in my area. And I just remember feeling a sense of peace fall over me as I walked, and I could hear the sound of the water moving down, and it was just a constant, uninterrupted flow, continuing no matter what came in its path. And on top of that, there was no noise other than maybe a few little moments of birds rustling in the bushes, waking up in the morning, or the owls saying goodnight. There was really nothing other than that. There was just the water coming through and a few little moments of the birds. And I just remember feeling like, oh, thank you. Thank you for this peace. And when I finally reached the waterfall, I just stood there in awe for a moment, and I embraced that moment, watching it, listening to it, and letting myself be there with it for a while. And I remember thinking about that water and where it came from and how far it had to come to be here with me, because I have no idea where this water was coming from. I hiked all over those hills, and never once did I find the spot that water was coming from. And it wasn't like there was no lakes nearby us. So I was just always curious about how far that water had to travel to be there in that space, and everything that it had to move through. And yet it wasn't trying to prove anything. It was just flowing down the path that it was given. And something about that stayed with me, because life feels like that sometimes. There are things we've moved through and things that shape us, things that slow us down or change our direction, and yet we still keep going. We still keep pressing forward no matter what. And standing there, I couldn't help but think about the earth in the same way, about everything that it holds, everything that it absorbs and carries, and how easy it is to forget that when we're caught up in our own pace, in our own lives. But in that moment, there was this quiet awareness of how much we're part of that story too. We're not separate from it. We're moving with it. And one thing that popped in my mind as I was sitting there thinking about the earth and what it provides and what it takes in and what it absorbs from the 8 billion people that are on this planet, I couldn't help but think about how much pressure is on her. And like us, I think about how when we feel all that pressure, it comes out in different ways, in anger and tears and sadness and isolation, in so many different ways. And when I think about what the earth does, it makes sense when the earth feels all that pressure and absorbs all of it. What does she do with it? And I learned in geography that the earth does recycle, and her way of recycling or transmuting is how I like to see it, is through what we know them as natural disasters. They are absolutely devastating, and it breaks my heart when we go through these natural disasters. I live near the San Gabriel's and Angeles forests that was a part of the big Bobcat fire in 2020, and it burned, I want to say, over 100,000 acres. I could be wrong in my amounts, so don't quote me on this, but it burned a lot of land. And then we ended up with an insane amount of rain following that fire about 6 months later, which created mudslides and a lot of damage to the hiking trails that I love and hold dear to my heart. But when it finally opened, once they were able to clear and make sure that it was safe for people to go back on those trails, when I went back to them, oh, she transmuted that area into something I had never seen before. And I have hiked those trails countless times, and when I came back to it for the first time after the fire and the floods that affected it and devastated it, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The way that it had transformed that space into something even more open and more beautiful was just simply amazing. So, as much as they are destructive and it devastates a lot of people, part of nature's job is to recycle and to make sure that the earth survives. And I did, like I mentioned, geography class that I took in college was very informational about all that. I wasn't aware that part of the process was to essentially transmute the earth with the volcanoes, with the earthquakes, with the fires, the floods, etc. Devastating for sure for us, but it is also a part of the process of nature. And I find it so beautiful in a way when we get to go back to the spaces that it had impacted, to find a new space that has been transformed to be shared with many generations after. So there's just something in that understanding that I feel has impacted me and has helped me to understand life in a much different way. And the more I've allowed myself to slow down and notice that, and to understand that the earth is a living thing, the more I started to feel that the earth doesn't just support us, it actually meets us as well. And there have been moments where I have literally walked up to a tree, and this took me a while. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm going to go hug a tree today. I felt weird because society says it's weird when you hug a tree. But it took me a while to get there. But when I really started to change the way I approach nature, I have, instead of just passing by the trees, especially an inviting tree, I would stay just a little longer. And for sometimes I would just place my hand upon the tree and just sit with it for a few minutes. I would just breathe with it. And sometimes when I got more comfortable, I would start to hug it, which is what I do now mostly. My kids think I'm still crazy that I do it every time we go hiking, but that's just a part of my experience with nature. And when I do place my hand upon the trees, or when I do embrace the trees, I simply take a few breaths with it and I settle in. And it's the feeling that I receive, that I get from doing this, isn't something that I really try to have it. I really haven't tried to explain to others, because I do understand that we all see life in a different way. But it really is something that I just feel in my soul when I breathe with it. I notice that my breath slows down and my mind becomes quieter. The tension in my body melts away and everything just becomes quieter. And for me, there's this steady presence there, like I'm standing next to something that's been rooted there through so much and is still there, grounded, calm, surviving, unshaken in the way that really feels reassuring. And in those moments, something inside me settles. And it's interesting because if you've ever just really done it, you can tell. For me, I can tell the difference in the way I feel after my embracing a tree or touching a tree. I don't know. Maybe it's not for you, but if it's something that you're interested and want to experience, I encourage you to go out and just place your hand upon a tree for a few minutes and really take the moment to be there intentionally and feel it and see what you feel. You may feel nothing or you may feel something. Again, everybody experiences life in different ways, so maybe this is something that you didn't ever think you would experience or wanted to experience, but maybe it will give you something in return. I don't know. Worth a shot, right? Anyways, moving along. Something else I find interesting with trees, since we are on the subject, is that they create a lot of art. I call this art in nature, nature's love notes. But with trees, one thing that I have noticed on my many adventures out in the forest is that when I look up in the canopies of the trees, there's oftentimes a work of art made by the trees, because they seem to never cross the paths or intersect with the other trees. There's always space in between the branches and the other leaves. It's almost like they have this understanding with each other that they exist together, but they don't need to overlap each other and take up each other's space. And it's really remarkable, because for a long time before I started to notice more about nature and about what trees and their places in life, and that they too are living, breathing beings in a different way, I just thought they were things. But as I have grown closer and have a better, higher understanding of it all, I understand that trees are intelligent, animals are intelligent. Like, the earth and nature knows exactly what it needs to do. And there is that unspoken understanding between them all. But I think you guys understand what I'm saying. But they just respect the space of the ones around them, and they work with each other. And they're not forcing their way in. They're not competing for more than what's there. They're just growing within their own space. And when you really take that in, it almost feels intentional. It's a quiet harmony. And it reminds us that there's a way to exist and to grow and to take up space without taking from everything else around us. And maybe that's something that we're all still learning in our own ways. And thinking about that, I find myself going back to the way people once lived in a much closer connection with the earth, and how there was more of a relationship there, an understanding there. I remember really enjoying learning about the ways of the natives and how they lived with the land. They listened to the land and trusted the land. They had a respect for Mother Earth in such a beautiful way that they took care of her, and she would give them what they needed in return. It was never about control. It seemed to always be about working with the land rather than trying to control it. And it makes me wonder how much of that way of being has been forgotten and how much has been carried forward. I know a lot of it has been lost over time, and because of how much faster life has become over the years, and more structured and more disconnected from the natural rhythms around us. It has expanded so tremendously that a lot of people don't feel comfortable being in nature anymore. And that is where we all come from. So for me, it's very interesting how disconnected we are from the natural world, because the people that lived here many, many, many years ago who honored the land knew what it meant and honored it in that way. And I wish we still had that connection. And that's where I am in life right now, is learning how to be reconnected with nature and Mother Earth, because I truly believe that we are connected to her in a much greater way. And I don't think that connection is gone. I think it shows up in moments like these, in the way something shifts when we step outside, or in the way our body responds when we slow down and touch the trees, or in the way something feels familiar, even if you can't fully explain why. Like it's been there all along, just waiting to be noticed again. And maybe that's what keeps coming through in all of this, that connection isn't something we have to go searching for. It's already there. And sometimes it just takes a moment of slowing down, of being present enough to feel it again. And when you do, I feel there's a kind of ease that comes with that. A reminder that you don't have to force everything. Not everything needs to be figured out all at once. Because the earth isn't rushing. It's simply moving and shifting and continuing in its own time. And somehow being in that space, I feel, helps find your way back to your own. And maybe that's where this all lands. Not in changing everything, not in doing more, but in remembering that you're a part of something steady, something supportive that's always been there, even when you weren't fully aware of it. And maybe just allowing yourself to come back to that every now and then is exactly what you need. And with that, we are stepping into today's Brooklyn Lights the Way, which is dedicated to the wisdom keepers, the ones who remind us of our connection to the earth in ways that are quiet, grounded, and deeply rooted. Over time, I've come to realize that guidance doesn't always come from where we expect it. Sometimes it comes from people, and sometimes from something much bigger than that, from the earth itself, from traditions that lived in connection with the land, that listened and respected and moved with it, rather than resist it. And for me, this is a little personal because knowing that my third great grandmother was Native American and that her connection to the earth, her way of life, was taken from her when she was just 1 year old, and she wasn't able to walk with that same connection as her people. And there's a part of that story that still echoes, partly in because my grandmother would never let her story die. And I appreciate that because I've been able to connect with that in my own way. And not always in a way I can explain, but in a way that I can feel. And I think that's where this pull toward nature for me comes from. This desire to sit with it, to walk with it, to just simply be in it. It's like a quiet remembering, a way of reconnecting to something that was always meant to be carried forward. So today, I want to acknowledge those who have held that wisdom and those who continue to guide others back to it in their own way. So to the wisdom keepers, the teachers, and the quiet guides, thank you. Your presence continues to light the way. If you have had someone who has helped guide you or lit the way in your life, head over to the website at findyourway2vyb.com and submit it through the contact page. As we close this episode, I will leave you with this. I think that what I'm taking with me from all of this is not something to be figured out or something to be changed. It's just something to come back to, because that connection to the earth, to myself, to something steady beneath it all is always there. Even when we're not paying attention to it, even when we drift a little further from it, it doesn't really leave. And maybe it's less about finding it and more about allowing yourself to notice it again. Just in those quiet moments where you slow down enough to feel what's already been there the whole time. And maybe that's enough, just letting yourself return to it without needing it to be anything more than that. Thank you for being here with me today. If something in this has stuck with you, just take it with you. You don't have to do anything with it. Just simply notice it. And if this is a space you find yourself coming back to, you can always follow, share, or leave a little support behind. It helps this message continue to reach the people who might need it. Until next time, walk slowly, breathe deeply, and remember, you can always Find your way to vibe.